This is the Page Publishing Book Club. How you doing? How you doing, Robbie? I'm your host, Alice Stackton Rossini. Over there, all the way on the other side of the room, is my engineer, Rob Barrett. How you doing? How you doing? How you doing? Over there on the other side of the radio beam is you. You, my Page Publishing Book Club faithful, and you, my friend, are in for it. Yes, you are. Oh, you're here for the Mets game? Sorry. No Mets game tonight. No, sir. Now, tonight we have a whole new crop of first-time authors, and I got to tell you, Rob, there's no end in sight. I mean, everybody's got a story, and where are they going when it's time to get that story published? Right here. Yes, yes, yes. And I'm not going to tell you why, because they'll tell you why. I don't even have to ask half the time. They just tell me how happy they are. What are you going to do? But you got to get here. And no one is more thankful that she had a book to read every single day while she was growing up than Maradalyn Trimmer. Great name, right? Maradalyn. Because it inspired her to be a writer. And now she's making her dream come true in a big way with the publication of her first sci-fi novel. It's called A Breed Apart. Maradalyn, what's your story?
It's a conspiracy theory tale, science fiction, about the aquatic humanoids that I like to believe exist, and I hope that a lot of other people believe exist. It's a tale of two doctors, scientists, who discover a mass beaching of aquatic species all over the world, and decide to go in search of what caused the aquatic beaching. And in the process, they discover a lot more than they bargained for. So it's a tale of adventure, and it's got a little romance, a little intrigue, a little mystery, a little bit of everything for everyone. It's for my first novel. I'm extremely proud of it. I intend to have a second out before too long, and many more to come. But for a first novel, I couldn't be more proud.
Is this something you've always been interested in, you've always thought about? Or
from as far back as I can remember, I wanted to be a writer. I wrote my first book for my dad at age 6, and growing up, we didn't have a lot of anything, actually. We grew up in a garage, most of the time without electricity, sometimes without even heat. So on nights when there was nothing else, the most exciting part of my brothers and sisters' evening was Marita would tell a story. And each and every night, my stories became, part of the center point of their lives and an escape for them. And I think that's when I realized that writing was just a wonderful way to help others escape whatever reality that they were sitting in. And I believe that's what books have always done for me. Yeah, I do love to write, and I do love to read.
So, but this is the first book you've published, so you waited a few years to publish something.
I did. I did. I kind of let life happen, a life less than ordinary happen. And then one day it was like, what are you doing? You only get this one life. You only get this one chance. You're as young as you're ever going to be at this exact moment and as old as you've ever been. I certainly think it's about time to get on with your dream. And I quit my job and decided to write the book and said I'm not stopping until it's all the way to the end. And the hard part's over. I'm a published author. The hard part's over.
You quit your job?
Just one day I was like, you know what? No matter how desperate it gets, no matter how bad it gets, I'm not going to stop until this book. And if somebody tells me, you cannot write, girl, you need to give it up, go get a real job, or I was going to get published one way or the other. And I really did not see in my mind that it was not going to happen.
That takes a lot of guts, I have to tell you.
I can't tell you how much guts it took. Since I've published, I've heard so many people say, oh, I've thought about writing a book, or I wanted to do this, or I wanted to do that. Man, my best advice for anybody is do it. It may be desperate for a minute or two, but if you really believe in what you're doing and what you're aiming for, you only get one life, and wouldn't it be great to just be doing what you want every single day for the rest of it? Don't settle for what somebody else thinks your life should be, or let your life just aimlessly along without direction or purpose. And it's like I said, life less than ordinary. Don't live it.
But now you have to sell it.
That's the next step. I'm actually leaving for 16 states, and I'm going to drop my flyer off at every bookstore and every comic book shop, and all along the way in 16 different states. I've been working at managing an RV park and just doing whatever I can do to get some money together and save some money up so that I could get out there and make people notice it, and then yes, hopefully sell it, and then I can quit this job. It's not exactly full time, but it still is taking up a lot of time from my writing, and then just write full time. That's the ultimate goal.
Man, you go, Moretta Lynn Trimmer. I tell ya, you're an inspiration. I don't know, about everybody quitting their job. Rob, should we quit our jobs? Oh, wait a minute. We're already doing what we love. That's right. No, seriously. That is risky stuff. But if you can do it, you should. You absolutely should. There are some truths about America and, about some of our country's most famous people that you might have a hard time wrapping your head around, but they are truths nonetheless, or at least they ring true to some people. And Timothy Murdoch went to great lengths to unearth some of them for his book entitled A Surreal History of America. Timothy, what's the deal here?
How I originally became interested in writing this book goes back to 1972. At the time, I was an undergraduate at John Jay College there in New York, and I saw this strange movie called Reefer Madness. And I was totally fascinated by, some of the things that they had to say about marijuana usage way back in the 1920s and the 1930s. After that, I went to college, went into the military. And then when I got out, the entire idea came back to me right after my sister's funeral when I was talking to one of my nephews who lives in Colorado. And marijuana is legal out there. And I was shocked by people just driving around and smoking. And down here in South Carolina, what they would call a nickel bag gets you 3 years in jail. So I decided to start researching the movie Reefer Madness itself. And I found out that it was financed by William Randolph Hearst. And at the time, William Randolph Hearst was one of the leading paper manufacturers in this country. But somebody found a way to make paper a lot cheaper using hemp. Now, hemp has been produced in our country since the days of George Washington. And that's when he started his whole campaign against growing hemp and, of course, the female plant, or marijuana itself, the plant that contains THC. As a result, many laws were passed where the Mexicans who had been growing hemp in the southwest portion of the United States were kicked out of the country. And so after that, I started researching it a little bit more, and I started going into the history of our country and some of the rather odd behavior of some of our leaders and how they reacted. And I began with the American Revolution. One of my favorite characters in American history, even though he's not an American, was Alexander Hamilton. Why did Alexander Hamilton leave his lush plantations in the West Indies to join Washington in the American Revolution? That's where the book actually starts taking off. It's called the Charleston Weed Party, as opposed to the Boston Tea Party. And quite honestly, in my viewpoint, there's no way we should have won the American Revolution. It goes from there to the American Civil War. And despite what most people may not know, usage of marijuana and growing marijuana in the South was rampant. That's why I came up with the idea of Sherman's March Through the Weed. When I researched that, I found out several things about the great emancipator, Abraham Lincoln, who actually didn't emancipate anybody.
So you try to bring out the things about American history we don't normally study in school.
If people examine the history of our country, many of our leaders did some very, very strange things that defy explanation.
Okay, well, I do believe our leaders did some very strange things. They are, after all, human, just like our leaders of today. Definitely some interesting research you got there, Timothy. Thanks. A college professor for 20 years, Frank Luna was raised a leftist and slowly evolved politically while coming to the realization there was bias in the classroom. That's what his book entitled Scattering the Icons is about. Frank, you say you read a book in college that made a big impact on you.
The Gulag Archipelago by Alexander Solzhenitsyn. And it set me on a completely different path. And utilizing that source and the other ones that I have in the book, it showed me a completely different picture of these so-called progressive countries that are, in fact, not helping the worker, but are, in fact, oppressing them even further. And so that's what set me on a new path. And if you read the book, you'll see I lay out in very good detail the atrocities committed by these Marxist leaders in places such as, of course, the Soviet Union, China, Cambodia, and also Cuba, which was, of course, my idol and my dream state as I was growing up. So the bottom line, when I was done with my research, I realized that the tally from communist countries, from Marxist countries, was over 100 million dead. And I was told nothing about this by my professors. Right? It was a completely biased classroom and environment. And it's not only at Fresno State, I discovered, and doing more research, I realized that this is pervasive throughout the United States, that most of the professors, even though Marxism in many parts of the world has now been discredited, most of the professors come from the left. And certainly what is lacking in the American public university system and colleges is some sort of balance, right? Some sort of balance between the left and the right. And that's when I decided to go into the teaching profession, because I saw what was happening in the classroom was not diversity, was not education, but in fact was the opposite. And in the book, if you read the second section, in detail, it shows how I try to provide balance on both sides. So I cover elements like the very controversial atomic bombs that were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki at the end of World War II, and I try to document both sides. I also include veterans in the Vietnam War, how the American GI was treated not only back here at home, but of course how it was portrayed in the media. I try to give a balanced approach in my classroom. It is geared toward the academic community, but I wrote it for the general reader as well, right? At the latter half of the book, I include stories about in the trenches trying to help students, some of them, of course, very heroic, some of them kind of quirky, some of them that impede the academic process in the classroom, things such as texting, modern technology. It also includes trying to stand back and seeing both sides of the argument. And that's how I think real diversity occurs in the classroom, right? A healthy debate and not being stifled because of your point of view. I think that's going to provide for a better academic environment throughout, not only at Fresno State, but throughout, of course, the entire academic community in the U.S.
All right, Frank. And with that, we are going to take a quick break. Coming up, a tale of two dolphins, the case of the missing egg, and the story of a rescue dog who's giving back in a big way. Do not go anywhere. This is the Page Publishing Book Club.
Have you written a book and want to get it published? Then now's the time to call Page Publishing at 800-204-6099 and do it immediately. You see, they're looking for authors of all types of books. And unlike most publishers, Page Publishing will take the time to review most of the books submitted to them. And they'll even give you their feedback. And if they like what they read, Page Publishing will get your book into bookstores and for sale online at Amazon, the Apple iTunes Store, and other outlets. They'll handle everything: copyright protection, printing, cover art, publicity, and editing. So if you've written a novel, a children's book, a cookbook, inspirational work, a book of poetry, or biography, and want to get it published, then you need to call Page Publishing and do it immediately. Call 800-204-6099 now for your free author submission kit. Your road to fame and fortune could very well start with this simple phone call. For your free author submission kit, call Page Publishing at 800-204-6099.
Welcome back to the Page Publishing Book Club. I'm your host, Alice Stockton Rossini, along with my engineer, Rob Barrett. There are dogs, and there are dogs who give back in a big way. Dogs like Max, the dog Catherine Duvenci rescued, and he's the subject of her book entitled A Day in the Life of Max. Hi, Catherine. What kind of dog are we talking about?
He's very unique looking. He's an old English sheepdog with a haircut, and he just loves other dogs and other people and always has to meet and greet. So I thought he would make a great pet therapy dog. So we went through the certification with Pets for Life. So now he's a certified pet therapy dog. And he's like a gentle giant. And one of the places where we volunteered was a child and adolescent psychiatric facility. And he was a big hit, especially with teenage boys, because he's so big. You know, they could wrap their arms around him and hug him, and he loved it, and they loved it. And recently, we've been doing the READ program. It's the READ, where we go into a library. And kids that have trouble reading out loud in school come in and they read a book to Max. And Max just lies there and listens to them, and they really enjoy that.
So this is a story about how Max spends his day helping others.
Yes, I originally got the idea to have a book about Max so that they could see what Max does outside of his volunteering. And so that's why I say it's a day in the life of Max. Because, you know, we're at the dog park. There's a photo of him with his big head sticking out of the window in my little Honda Civic. And it says, "This is how I roll." And that is pretty much how he rolls. And it's also, I think it's a good book for parents of children that want to get a dog or a pet, because it shows the responsibilities. It shows us going for walks and to the vet and Max volunteering. And so I think it will help parents show their kids, you know, that having a pet is a lot of responsibility, and you need to do a lot of things for and with your dog.
You take this dog to libraries and kids are reading to the dog. Are you able to tell them about this book?
Yes. We haven't done any book signings yet. I hope that we can, but we haven't set that up.
It sounds like you're already in touch with the kinds of people who might be interested in this book. Will there be more books about Max?
Yes, I really want to do a series. The next book I'd like to do is Max with service professionals like police and fire and EMTs and those service professionals that, you know, help society.
Nice, Catherine. Looking forward to that. Edward Kozak wanted to bring some sunshine into what he believes is a very dark world for children. It's why he wrote Willie and Silly, the Magnificent Dolphins. Edward.
It's about two dolphins, magnificent dolphins for children. Correct. Well, there's so much negativity going on in this world, you know, crime and violence. That's all I see on TV. And I was always for cartoons like Bugs Bunny and, you know, Daffy Duck, Tom and Jerry. You know, those were fun cartoons. And what I'm seeing now for children even, you know, like Family Guy. You ever watch that? I thought it was a cartoon. You know, boy, it's filthy, that stuff.
Well, I don't think Family Guy is for kids.
But at the same time, it gives respect for mammals, for animals, you know, the children should be. It's about two dolphins, and they go after a shark that's the villain of the sea. He's always on a prowl to eat little baby eggs of other creatures in the sea. So Willie and Silly are like the law enforcement off in the waters of the Northern Sea, and they get a plan to trap them with the help of Timmy the Turtle, and he's also involved in it. But I wrote two chapters. That's one about Sharky, and then I wrote one about the Barracuda gang. So there's two different chapters in this book.
Well, have you tried it out on any little ones to see if they like it?
I started writing in my 70s. I never wrote. I got a book here in front. It's in the poetry, Echoes of Yesterday, and it's called Shadow of Doubt. So I was kind of happy. I saw him in a book of poetry. And then Princess died and Mother Teresa. They both died at the same time, but Princess Di got all the recognition, so I wrote a good poem about Mother Teresa. And this is the truth. After I wrote that poem, I went to the casino and won $10,000. I never won nothing that big. So I always wondered if Mother Teresa had something to do with that.
You never
and
know.
She's in a book of poetry. Yeah. So I was writing a little poetry, and then all of a sudden I decided to write something for the children, And through the stores, that's what Page Publishing is doing for me. And then, of course, I'm buying books. I'm passing them all out, like Seattle, Florida, Chicago. I got a sister. She already bought 20 books, pass them around out to a church, So at least it's getting around a little bit.
You feel good about it?
The thing is, if this sitcom like successful, where it moves a little bit, I would like to see a cartoon movie of it. That would be something.
What is it? Finding Dory is the big movie now.
Look, that's the one I just saw. That was kind of cute and everything. Good little story. Yeah, I'd like to get something like that going, and even a series, perhaps.
Well, you never know. You never know. Anything can happen.
Well, I was going to try to contact somehow like Walt Disney and some other studios that make these here movies, and then find out how it goes from there,
Well, good luck.
But are you with Page Publishing? Because I even saw them advertising now here in Arizona.
Page advertises everywhere. Yes, I work for Page. I do the interviews.
Oh, I see. Okay. And I went to my neighborhood newspaper, and they printed a nice story, and I sent that copy to your outfit.
So your local newspaper did a story on you?
Yeah, they did. So
That's
I was
awesome.
kind of pleased with that, too, yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for sending that along, Ed. That's the way to get started. Finally, tonight, Daniel Cheney has written a children's book with one of the longest titles I think I've ever heard. Daniel, what is the title?
The name of it's called Short Tale of the Great Pig Detective, Mr. Hoskins, The Case of the Missing Egg.
All righty.
Okay, the book is pretty much about a great pig detective who gets a job offering, or pretty much a case, to help find a missing egg for this goose named Mrs. Goose, who has lost, or most likely had her egg stolen. And he's on him a mission to make sure that nothing bad happens to it, or pretty much to find it in time, per se. And he has to go all the way through town, just to try and find, wherever it is. And he has to ask friends and everybody else in town who may know where the egg is. The lessons you learn is always do the right thing. And if you have a problem, always, try and seek help. Never, ever try and do it on your own, because more or less you probably end up at dead ends. It started off as an inspiration. You know who Bob Hoskins is?
Yes, I do.
Well, it started off with an inspiration of him. You see, I was a big fan of his growing up as a kid. And I don't know how the story came about. It just came about when I was trying to write a horror book one night, and ended up going in a dead end on that. And I had to pretty much cut that off. And the next morning when I woke up, I came up with a brand new idea. I'm like, hey, why don't I write another children's book and see how this one turns out? So I went ahead. I came up with an idea just for a snap of a finger, and I got it done within 2 different days or 2 different weeks. So altogether, it took about 9.5 hours to complete.
How are you telling people about it?
Well, I go around and I tell them, if y'all got kids, read this book. It's a great children's book. Your kids will love it. They love mysteries, and they love solving mysteries, or they like a little bit of comedy, because this book has some comedy mixed in with it as well, because you see, I want kids not only to get like a good mystery tale, but I want them to get at least a little bit of a good laugh out of it too. So that's the reason why I put pretty much like a little deputy in there, pretty much help this character out.
Is this your first children's book?
Well, actually, I've written a book before this, a manuscript, but it hasn't really gotten noticed yet. But I'm going to try and see if I can get it sent over to Page Publishing, since this one done such pretty good work.
Yeah, how did this turn out for you, okay?
Oh, it done awesome. I have friends and family saying they loved it.
That's great. You have little kids reading it? Is it for little kids?
Yes, it's for all ages.
All right, Daniel, a big fan of Bob Hoskins. Remember him from Who Framed Roger Rabbit? That scene where Jessica asks him to help find Roger. Do we have that clip somewhere, Rob? Yeah. Let's play it.
Mr. Valiant. Mr. Valiant. You've got the wrong idea about me, Mr. Valiant. I'm a pawn in this, just like Roger. Can you help me find him? Just name your price, and I'll pay it.
Yeah, I bet you would. You gotta have the rabbit to make the scam work.
No, I love my husband. You've got me all wrong. You don't know how hard it is being a woman looking the way I do.
Yeah, well, you don't know how hard it is being a man looking at a woman looking the way you do.
I'm not bad. I'm just drawn that way.
I love that, Rob. I'm not bad. I just sound this way. Anyway, that wraps up another edition of the Page Publishing Book Club. Thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. Please check back next week. Pretty sure we're going to be here. Hey, we have to share our airtime with the Mets. We love our Mets, so bear with us. The season will be over before you know it. By the way, if you miss a show, you just got to hear it. Not a problem. Go to 710WOR.iheart.com. 710WOR.iheart.com. All you have to do is check out the weekend schedule. We are there for you. You can just download us and listen to us whenever you want. And one more thing before we go. I know, Rob, you can't wait to get out of here, right? You got a big date tonight? Hot date tonight? Huh? With your wife? Going out? At 1 a.m.? I mean, 12:30 or whatever time it is. It's late or early, however you want to look at it. Anyway, you really, really, really have to check out Len and Todd in the morning. And you can do it. It doesn't matter where you are. You can be anywhere in the country. That's why we have iHeartRadio. Len and Todd in the morning, Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. Trust me on this. You're going to love it. You're going to love it. It'll be huge. And I'm there. I'm there in the mornings with them. So what more could you ask for? Alrighty then. We got to go. We will see you next time right here on 710 WOR. Have a great weekend.